We made it back.
All right. I'll call the Mount Vernon Utility Commission meeting to order at 8:31 for July 6, 2023. Are there any changes or additions to the June 8th, 2023 minutes? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
In a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor of approving the minutes from June 8th, say aye. Aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right. We also have the adjustment journal here. For those new to us, the adjustment journal, the billing office has authority to offer certain amounts of credits to accounts up to a limit. Anything over that limit has to come before the utility commission. So I'll kind of go through these 5 items for today. The first is bulk water and septic discharge fees for June. Those come into the
Mr. Zick.
plants. What's that?
We didn't call the roll.
Oh, we didn't call the roll. I always forget that one. Can you call the roll, Maureen?
Mr. Platt,
Here.
Mr. Zick,
Here.
Mr. Reinhardt,
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
All right. The next 2 are return payments. Do you have any info on that, or no? Not really.
I don't know.
Okay. A couple of apartment complexes likely had an overpayment. Non-payment fees for shutoffs, and then the last one is a credit for Cooper Park. I'm sorry, Heartland Commerce Park. So, any questions about the adjustment journal? Do we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
And a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. All right. First item of business, Ohio Eastern Star revoke exemption. Quentin, are you able to talk to us about that?
Yeah, I know a little bit of the background. So the exemption was made to allow them to use plastic pipe instead of ductile, as we normally would require for a project like this. And on site, it was discovered that they don't have any backflow prevention prior to where the plastic would be. So any of the water that's coming into contact with their plastic pipe could easily come right back into our distribution system and do nasty stuff to the rest of the distribution system. So my understanding is that because they don't have these measures in place as they originally had communicated, that it really makes 0 sense to allow them to have this exemption when it's not just going to be affecting their property, but the rest of the distribution system.
And have they reached back out to us since our meeting of about a month ago? Or
I
no?
believe Brian met with them shortly before he left.
Okay.
Brian was trying to schedule a meeting. My availability was somewhat limited. I don't know if he managed to get it.
He did get a meeting with the owner and I believe it was the construction manager.
And do they know that we're here preparing to do this?
My understanding is he made them aware that this was coming.
Just to fill in the rest of the commission, I did have a meeting, not the one that Quentin's referring to, probably about a month ago with the engineers and Brian and the engineers from Eastern Star, where they were made aware that, yes, they have an exemption to use plastic pipe, but they have to have backflow prevention in place anywhere that pipe comes in contact with our distribution system. So they seemed, I don't know, they seem to understand the message, but I don't know that we've gotten a resolution to.
Yeah, well, I was at the meeting I think you're talking about.
Yeah.
And there seemed to be at least some confusion on the part of at least the people in charge of Ohio Eastern Star versus their construction people. And that's just me potentially reading into the situation. But I think that we made it quite clear because they made a number of assertions when they were at the meeting, when they were at the utility commission meeting asking for the exemption.
And let's remember, the exemption was sort of granted after the fact. They had already started construction on their water system with plastic pipe.
They haven't installed any.
Yeah, they haven't installed. Is that let me make sure that I understand the sequence, and you can confirm if this is correct, Quentin, that the set of plans that they initially filed with the city showed ductile iron pipe all through, and so it met city standards, and therefore we approved them. By sort of accident, I think, we learned that, yeah, we submitted those plans, but that's not what we're actually going to do. At which time the city engaged in a number of discussions with them, which led to the creation of the policy for the utility to allow in certain cases for a development to ask for and be granted use something other than the ductile iron we require. When they came and made the presentation to the Utility Commission to get the exemption, they specifically said that there would be backflow preventers on the lines everywhere that anywhere that their lines came into contact with the city lines, to prevent any of the water that came into contact with their plastic pipe from getting back into our system. And then I think subsequent to that, you went out and did an inspection with some of the water guys, or was it just the water people?
Jason
Went out and did it. That's
there,
right.
I believe.
And he went out and did it, and they found that there were, in fact, no backflow preventers anywhere. And then that led to the subsequent meeting that Rick and Brian and I were, and there were probably half a dozen people from Ohio Eastern Star there.
So, do we have, so first, get this straight, because I don't think I was at that meeting, maybe where you let them.
Mm-hmm.
So first the plans were, and they had agreed to, and they were gonna put the ductile in. And then somewhere in between here, like you had just said, that changed, and they were moving they wanted to do plastic.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was after we had already said had to,
Well,
policy change.
well, yeah,
They said, okay.
it's that once that I'm actually, maybe it's just me reading into it, but I'm not actually convinced that they ever planned on actually using ductile iron.
Yeah.
I think they just submitted plans to have them approved, and then we're going to say, oops.
But they clearly knew they're supposed to have backflow.
Yes.
So I think that's like a common thing. Everybody knows that.
Mhm.
The construction guys, the architect, or whoever designs the system. And initially they submitted plans, and we were nice enough to give them permission to use the plastic, and then they didn't follow through with what they're supposed to.
Well, yeah.
So we don't have an obligation to stick to that waiver, then, do we?
No, I mean,
Okay.
I wish that there was someone from Ohio Eastern Star here,
Agreed.
but until there are a couple of things we could do. We can, of course, just revoke it, or we could suspend it until they install the backflow preventers and go forward.
I like option 2.
Yeah, I'm just sort of suggesting that might be that way, we're saying, we granted this and we'll allow you to do it, but you have to show us that you've done what you said you were going to do first.
There's sort of another layer to this as well. So that I wasn't at the meeting where they made their case for the exemption, but it was my understanding that their case was that there wasn't ductile available to them. It wasn't a financial reason. Brian has reached out to the ductile suppliers that are right down the street, and they say they have plenty of ductile for that project and would love to sell it to them.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they've already ordered their plastic pipe and have it on site, but that's another issue.
The policy that was adopted to allow the use of the plastic pipe does not talk about the unavailability of ductile. It just says that you may under these circumstances. So I'm not sure that I agree that there's something a little hanky in there, whether it's with their GC or a supplier or whatever. That being said, I'm not sure that that's something that we can really hold our hat or we cannot take that into account when we're deciding. But I think that the backflow preventers, which were very clearly part of the requirement and that are not currently there, if this utility commission were to suspend the approval of the exemption until the backflow is in fact installed, might be a good way to go.
Yeah. And part of the reason we would do a suspension instead of a revocation is in order to reinstate it, we'd have to have another utility commission meeting. In this case, I think the motion can be framed in the sense that so long as backflow prevention is installed to the satisfaction of the city engineer, the exemption could be back in place.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's why it's self-executing without having to come back to utility commission, and that way we make sure that they know they have to do it, but then once they do that, they can continue with the plans as submitted.
So I wasn't here for that. So why did we give them an exemption? Because that was after the Rockford thing, right? After the housing development.
Yeah, I wasn't at that meeting either, actually. But, I think the plan is in place because this is their development, their own property. As long as it doesn't affect our utility system, then any degradation of that piping is their responsibility. And so it's not really in my opinion, it's not a city issue at that point.
Wasn't that the same for any of the subdivisions, though? Like with the Rockford subdivision, that was their own system also?
Well, but we didn't actually entertain exemption. They went back, did their research, and decided they'd be better off installing ductile themselves.
Yeah.
So.
And with a lot of subdivisions, we run the main line down, and then it's just right off. Here, they've got all these units that are connected with one or two points rather than each individual unit having it. And so I can see where if they want to have their own sort of contained unit that just buys water from us and is responsible for all their own pipes and everything else, it's their choice. But
I'm open to what you guys want to do.
I just have one question on the suspension. So if it's suspended and then they decide they're not going to install the backflow, do we have to vote again for it to be revoked, or do we say suspended with these conditions?
It's suspended until they install the backflow preventer that meets the approval of the city engineer.
If they never do
What
that,
I'm saying is, what if they decide not to do that?
they're in violation.
Then it remains in suspension until they do that, and then if they continue to build, then they're in violation, and we'll go through
Okay. So
that way.
So suspending it is essentially the same as revoking the exemption. They could go ahead and install what they had originally planned with it being suspended without the backflow. Okay.
Yeah, they could do the iron ductile, which they have already approval for, and I don't think we ever revoked that approval. So if they wanted to make it to the original the original plans, which meet all the city's specifications, they could do that right now without doing anything.
Yeah, to me, the suspension just means we are not delaying progress until we meet in another month, assuming they decide to comply.
So if they decide not to comply, they're in violation.
Assuming they continue to build with the plastic
So
pipe.
they can stop all operations right now, construction.
Well, they can. We're only talking about the water.
Right, no, I get that, but the water lines.
Yeah.
They could build something, not the water lines, but they wouldn't be able to connect the water lines or put the water lines in until they've satisfied the city.
And they cannot connect the water lines to the rest of their already existing system.
And they cannot connect to the rest of the system. Do we have inspectors that inspect the progress as they go to make sure that they just don't?
Yep, we've
Do
had
what they
somebody
wanna
out
do and
there
tell you.
every day
Okay,
for past month now almost.
okay.
And Rob, what are the repercussions if they don't comply?
Well, then we have a whole series of ways of that, both administratively, and then they can refer it to me for criminal or civil enforcement actions.
Okay.
I mean, in the end, we don't have to provide them water.
Right.
We only have to, we have to provide them wastewater because they're close enough, and I'm sure that the health department would order them to connect. And so, we don't have to provide water to the system until they meet our requirements.
Okay.
So so we have ways of dealing with with this issue if they don't want to comply.
If they don't want to comply, there are both administrative and then potentially civil and or criminal things that we can do.
Okay.
I don't really want to sort of go into any of those
Okay.
because I don't want to foreclose the use of one or the other at this point. So there are lots of different things that we could do.
Okay. All right.
So, we ready to make a motion of some sort? I can suggest language if you'd like me to.
Give it a shot. We'll see.
It depends on what you guys want to do, but I'll start with this one. A motion to suspend Ohio Eastern Star's exemption to allow the use of plastic pipe until they install the necessary backflow prevention to the satisfaction of the city engineer. Does anybody want to make that motion? Because I can.
I'll make a motion with Rick's language.
Do we have to vote on that? Can I?
We can do something different.
Can I make an amendment to that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe this isn't the right way. I'd like to know why they didn't follow through on what they agreed to. They
Go ahead, Rob.
There's a lot of speculation.
I know. That's yes, I understand speculation.
And beyond that, we just don't know.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
So when we serve them or let them know, say if we vote to suspend, I'm guessing we can make it clear to them that they need to follow through with what's being asked of them to do things the correct way, or they could be revoked.
Well, here's the thing, is that unless they either install the backflow that makes Brian or Quentin or whoever they've got out there happy, we're not going to sell them water.
Okay.
I mean, in the end, we don't have to do that. Their hookup is totally dependent on them following the rules. We turn people off all the time because they don't follow the rules.
Okay.
And you guys don't see any of that.
Yeah.
Just because first they start administratively, and sometimes they get silly, and then I get involved.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go well for anyone at that point.
Okay. I can second your motion.
Okay. Let's do a roll call on this, Maureen.
Mr. Platt,
Yes.
Mr. Zick,
Yes.
Mr. Reinhardt,
Yes?
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Is somebody here this week that can advise them of the situation?
Jason's there. I
Okay.
can do that right away.
All right.
I'm sure that
Make sure I have the language right, because I'm going to have Jason just tell them word for word. The motion was to suspend Ohio Eastern Star's exemption to install plastic pipe till they install the required backflow prevention to the satisfaction of the city engineer.
Correct. Okay. Started off with a short one. Water treatment plant update.
I don't know what that one is.
Did Brian tell you? Yeah, we'll skip that one.
Yeah, Brian just said that. So I think he may be.
We're maybe moving forward on the silos, kind of completing engineering on that.
Oh, that might be why. Yeah, there was a meeting a couple weeks ago
Yeah.
with the silo engineers, and that project is moving forward. So,
It's kind of preliminary design right now, getting the elevations right, and we need to get the slab out there, existing slab cord, to make sure structurally it will be sufficient for the new lime silos. So it's kind of where we're at right now with that.
yep. Good. Keep that one quick. We'll go to the next one. So, Quentin, if you want to talk about it, I'm pretty aware of this. There were some concerns about the city charging water service availability charges. For those who aren't familiar, if we run a line water line. Even if customers don't hook up, we charge a minimum bill because they have the availability. It's not an uncommon practice in municipalities, but it does seem to be a contentious one. Part of the reason it's done is the line is put in with the expectation that it's going to generate enough revenue to pay for itself, and if we don't charge a water service availability fee, that becomes much more challenging to do. The second side of it is we actually keep a record of anybody who pays water service availability fees, and if they decide to hook up in the future or a future property owner hooks up, we do apply those fees toward their capacity and tap fees and things like that. So I think what Brian would like us to do is dig into every customer paying a water service availability charge to determine if council were to kind of suspend or revoke water service availability fees, what the financial impact of that would be to the utility. So, did you have anything to add?
That's exactly my understanding.
Okay. Do we want to have a little bit more discussion about this? I think we'll do a motion just so that Brad has some direction.
Yeah, he's in the process of looking at the billing software and figuring out how to collect this information.
So
from that software.
was that like a one-time fee when a new water line was put in, and how long has that been going on?
Monthly.
It's a monthly fee, and how long has that been a practice of the city?
Longer than any of us have been.
Okay.
Yeah, I know from looking at some of the old records that it's been. Well, how long have we had that
Clinton Township's been about,
since the mid '90s?
yeah.
And I know that the water availability fee was in the first Clinton Township contract, because I found that doing some research about that, and I'm fairly certain from my discussions with Mr. Smith that the water service availability fee was just carried over from what the city was already doing into that contract.
Okay, so what precipitated this?
We had a discussion about the Buckeye Edition at last council meeting, and one of the everybody I think was primarily in favor of the project, but they weren't in favor of charging people in that area who weren't hooked up, which I understand on the surface can seem very unfair, but at the same time there is, we need to deliver water to customers who need water, and so it's kind of it's a balancing game. So in the end, I think City Council is going to make the final decision on this. I think we just want to provide the necessary information to them. So,
Do we charge a sewer service availability as well, or is it only for water service?
No, because if we run a sewer line past the health department will order you to hook in.
Okay.
But Clinton Township has been doing this since the 90s.
We've been doing it
The
since
city's been doing it, so people in
Mm-hmm.
Clinton Township have been paying.
some of them have.
Some of them have. And it's just that this is a new water line to this project.
Because of
Yeah.
the reason it came up was because of the Buckeye Edition
Yeah.
water lines.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people are going to have through the CDBG grant.
Mm-hmm.
I always mess that up.
Yeah.
The tap fees are going to be paid for a significant number of them,
Right.
but some of them it won't be paid for,
Mm-hmm.
and so the question became: they're not having their tap fee paid. Are we going to still hit them with that water availability charge?
Okay. No, I get it. So this is a motion just to do the study to see
Yeah.
how many people this is affect. Like
Mhm.
10 people out of 100 or whatever's down there won't do it.
yeah. Well, no, it's to study citywide customers and Clinton Township customers. Who's paying it today? How much? Well, the fee is a minimum bill, so how much does that total add up
Okay.
to? So if we were to, as a city, no longer charge an availability fee, what's the impact to the budget of the utility? Which ultimately, what's the impact to the rest of the customers on the system?
Sure.
Because somebody's got to make the gap there.
So was this brought up by customers down there, or did someone on city council say, hey, I got
It would have been brought up by the former chair of the Utility Commission,
Okay.
the Utility Committee of Council.
Yeah, and also we had a township trustee here who wasn't quite aware that that was in the contract. So
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the township trustees were not aware of a lot of things that are in that contract because the contract has traditionally been closely held by the Clinton Township Water and Wastewater Board. So the township trustees are finding out all sorts of things.
No, I'm all for this study.
yep,
Yeah.
I'll take that as a motion.
Okay.
Can I do that?
Yes.
Do you have a second for a water service availability study?
I'll second it.
All right, let's do a roll.
Mr. Platt,
Yes.
Mr. Zick,
Yes.
Mr. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Next item, billing system issue meter connection. Is that what this presentation is about?
Yes.
All right, let me pull it up here.
Yep.
Okay, this is the first time seeing it.
Basically, what happened is when they put the new meter in our software, it kept it as a minimum bill every month instead of actually calculating what was used. So these are the three largest.
So what it sounds like is we had an issue with our meter installation that didn't accurately calculate the bills. The recommendation from the billing office is to waive these fees and begin billing correctly.
Correct. And then Brad lays out a couple of options there.
It was our fault, the city's fault.
Correct.
I would make a motion that we not charge those fees and offer a reduced settlement.
Something lower than that, but
Oh,
not
yes.
zero?
Yeah. Yeah, or I mean, I don't, personally,
Yeah.
I don't have a problem of a motion to just waive that and go back to fix the problem.
Yeah, everything's
Charge them
corrected
more,
now.
because
Yep.
if that was our fault as a city, that's on us, that's our fault.
In total, there was about 15 accounts like that
Yeah.
that they found a lot. They were smaller amounts.
How was this discovered, just the billing department?
Jennifer found it.
Oh,
This
okay.
kind of Brad's starting to dig into these different things, and they found those accounts.
Do you know
Oh, yeah.
the total dollar amount was? Is that in the presentation?
I don't. For all the accounts, I'm not sure.
'Cause we've been operating without these funds anyway. This is just,
Correct.
this is just us saying, oh, by the way,
Yeah, they were only
made a mistake and
getting.
you owe us money.
Yeah, getting billed a minimum charge each month.
How does that happen? We have to program the meter or it's in the billing
It
software?
was in the billing software. Yeah.
Okay.
I do think it's good that that he's gone and initiated these auditing procedures.
Yeah.
That we're
Yeah.
finding this.
Yes.
Well, Mike already made a motion. Well, what do you
I
want?
guess
to
it was a confusion. I guess I would make a motion that we would waive these fees that were at the fault of the city.
Mhm.
And just start the normal billing.
And do we have a second for that?
I'll second that.
Okay, a little more discussion. I tend to agree. I think it's already going to be maybe painful enough to start getting a more accurate bill without
And so,
having to, fork over a couple $1,000s. I'm guessing these are apartments or?
One's a restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah, this don't quite state.
The 210 is apartments, maybe?
Hmm.
Yeah, one's the Chinese restaurant.
That'd be 1015.
One thing, it doesn't have to be part of the motion. Can you ask Brad to reach out to all these customers anyway, just so they know that they haven't been getting quite accurate bills?
And what the situation was.
Yeah.
My only question on this is every time that we have an issue on our end, are we going to make, and we're setting a precedent right now that we're waiving somebody's $9,500 worth of water that they use. I mean, yes, we billed it incorrectly, but it is water that they use. Are we going to set a precedent for this every time that the city makes a mistake? it has to be carried forward like this from now on. Is what I'm saying. You know, there's
Are
it's
these
going to be
just
hard to go back and
Yeah.
charge somebody at any
Oh,
point once we make a mistake on the meter side.
I think like on that, that we just need to make sure we do our job correctly. And we do it correctly,
I agree.
I'm good. So, from prior meetings and discussions, I know there's been discussions about, I think it was billing and about having things work together and flow, and even whether or not we had the money to put in new accounting systems, was it at one meeting or something, or new billing system?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the city as a whole, and I know some of this goes back to council maybe voting on things to allow, the city needs to make sure that we run a good business and make sure that we have the accounting software or the staff to properly bill people and measure the water and sewer charges.
Yeah.
And I think that because the public expects that, and they think that's happening now,
Mhm.
and that's all. So I think that's how I would prefer us to do it. Is that if it's our mistake, it's on us.
Mm-hmm.
And because we've already done that, we did that with, I think it was Ariel here several meetings ago. Wasn't it Ariel and somebody else owed us a bunch?
Yeah.
And we have given some private, some landlords some discounts, I think. But no, I think that we just need to make sure we have a good system. And we need to make sure that if we need to spend money on a new system to get it working right, we need to do that.
Well, and I also think we have now, obviously this issue happened 10 months ago,
Yeah.
but as of today, we do have, 40-hour-a-week oversight. And this wasn't, I wouldn't say this was necessarily a mistake of the staff in the office or even the metering department. I think we just needed to have somebody able to dig into
Yeah.
all these issues, and I think that's why we're going to have a lot corrected, and I would hope that we have many fewer mistakes in the future.
Yeah,
So.
no, I think it's not like, I agree, it's not, I'm not saying
Yeah.
it's an individual person's fault,
Nope.
but I think as an overall it's a government fault.
Mm-hmm.
And to go back and look in to try and make things better, that's what we should do as a government agency. So,
Yep.
And so ideally, if this would have been caught the first month, it could have been handled administratively.
yes,
Yeah.
oh yeah. And everybody would have been happier about that.
And now that they know about this
Yeah.
situation, they're paying attention to it as the new meters come in. They're correcting it, along with several other issues.
No, whoever thought to go back and look at that stuff should be congratulated.
Jennifer Roddy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep, she found them.
Good.
Well, at least we'll be doing good going forward. The motion currently on the floor is to waive the fees for these 3 customers, with the understanding that Brad is going to waive it for the under $500 limit of the billing office. So, do a roll call.
Mr. Platt,
Yes.
Mr. Zick,
Yes.
Mr. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on. Cooper Park leak credit request. I don't know about that one.
They said Keith was going to be here today,
Oh.
or Brad did.
Well,
And I
we'll.
know him and Brad had a meeting yesterday,
Okay.
so I'm not sure where that one stands.
We'll put that one on hold. Let me.
I don't know what the outcome of the meeting was yesterday.
And if we are still here and Keith joins us, we can come back to it. 5 Parrott Street, Juan Grimaldo payment request.
5 Parrot. He should have a.
Oh, another one there.
Yeah, there's a spreadsheet for each one of these.
So this is the first one. There it is. Request for hardship payment plan for water bill dated 4/26 of 23.
The backstory on that one is they went away, were not home, and while they were gone, the water was used. So what they're asking for is a payment plan. I think it's a $700 bill.
Mm-hmm.
They want to pay $100 extra each month on their bill until that's paid off.
Okay.
That's what
So
they're.
just ask, so they were gone, they had a leak, but they wanna, they wanna make payment plans, so they're not saying not pay it. We're
Yeah.
like, yeah, we had a leak, we
Yeah.
didn't know, sorry, but we still wanna pay you.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, if that's, I'm sorry, I'm for that.
Yeah.
I
Because
think that-
they're looking at it. We used the water went through their meter, so they used it somewhere. So yeah, they want to make it right with us.
Do you know if we did a? Well, I guess if the leak was in the house, it would have still gone through wastewater.
Yeah,
So when you look at the graph for this house,
Okay.
I don't know if you put it on there, but if you look at the usage graph, there's a clear time where the water wasn't used for months, and then all of a sudden there's very steady usage, and then it just stops again. So it's not really indicative of a leak. It's indicative of maybe somebody, turned the hose on, or somebody that was at the house watching the house while they were gone left a sink running or something. It's really not indicative of a leak, and it's about a 6 or 7 gallon per minute rate. So we did a pretty thorough investigation of that to see if there was a leak anywhere.
Okay.
did we discuss a while back about setting up a process, like if we detect something like that and reaching out to the homeowner, and if they're not home? Did we have a discussion about
So the
trying to come up with some way of
system-
dealing with that issue?
The system can detect leaks,
Right.
but leaks are typically a spike.
Yeah.
If it's a slow kind of run, like Quentin's explaining, it doesn't really trigger. So,
Okay.
for instance, there was one day where the handle on my toilet stayed down. I got a call from the billing office the next
Yeah.
day. Whereas I caught it halfway through the day, another day, and I didn't get a call.
Sure.
So
Okay.
I need to change that handle, by the way. But
And this only lasted like 5 days, 4
Okay.
or 5 days. Just happened to be enough water consistently over those few days to rack up a big bill.
And Brad has got in the office. Mrs. Mack will print off a report every day of high flow meters,
Okay.
and they're tracking those down. So he's kind of doing very well with that. So.
cool.
I would make a motion that we allow them to pay this off over several payments or whatever you guys decide.
Can you add to your motion before we go forward that will also suspend late fee penalties on this?
Yes.
Okay.
I would agree to suspending late fee penalties.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, do a roll call, Maureen.
Mr. Platt,
I'll abstain. I know this person personally, so
I'm sorry,
I'm
Abstain.
going to abstaining from the vote.
okay. Mr. Zick,
Yes.
Mr. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Okay. Old business, 81 Woodlake Trail. That's on this as well.
This is the one they were on vacation, and somebody used their outside spigot. So they have a police report, which is up there, and they wrote a letter asking for forgiveness. It is a total dollar value. On the water side, it's $170. On the wastewater side, it's $253.64. For a total of $423.64 is what they're asking to be forgiven.
I think we went over some of these at the last meeting in detail, and I think the concern was just we wanted dollar amounts to go. I think the information was too new that there weren't any dollar amounts to go with,
Correct. Yep.
them, so I'm gonna present them at the next meeting with actual dollar amounts.
Okay. Do we want to discuss this one further, or do we want to make a motion?
What is the administrative limit for what they can?
It's $500, isn't it?
500, yeah.
So can they handle this administratively? It's $400 and some dollars.
I think that's kind of where we didn't know what the dollar figure was.
Yeah,
At
that
that
was the
time.
issue, and because it had been moved from new business to old business, that's why it was presented.
All three of these.
It could also be the case that this is a unique situation. I would view it as unique. I think there are pretty standard procedures in the water office for how they do credits. For instance, if it's an outside leak, they automatically credit the sewer fees. So this is, in my opinion, I think Brad and the staff would probably prefer some guidance from the commission before forgiving this bill.
I think this one that people came home from vacation and their spigot on outside had been turned on and was running while they were gone for
Okay.
like a, so they they filed a police report and everything.
Yeah.
I think there was some other outside vandalism or some other things that had happened as well.
Where's Wood Lake Trail at? I'm trying to get a perspective so that
It's part of the
it's out there.
landings.
Yeah.
Anybody want to make a motion on this one?
I'll make a motion that we suspend the current fees for that particular incident.
Okay.
$423.64.
Do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second.
Okay. Do we want to have more discussion on this?
Yes.
Okay.
Because if you guys are looking for guidance,
Yeah.
we just had a person that had a leak, and it's like, I'll pay the bill.
Mm-hmm.
The leak's not their fault necessarily. It's just something that happened.
I don't think that was a leak, because I think that, as Clinton was saying, that looks like somebody came in, turned on a faucet or something, so there were no leaks. This one, because I looked at it, because I talked to Kit, and this one really does seem like somebody came and did something to one of their outside spigots.
So the police department thinks there was possibly an act of vandalism
Yes.
in this case, and not just the fact that somebody walked off and left their water on bags.
Because they didn't have people out there, taking care of the gardening and stuff like that while they were gone. Somebody had come and turned on the faucet, and there shouldn't have been anyone there. Which is how I think this one is different from the previous.
Opinions? Is it different? I don't know.
I mean, if you're looking at,
Yeah.
that's how I would draw the difference, but, that's...
Okay. You good?
They don't have like a camera or anything that actually shows somebody did this, right?
No, I mean, the outside,
Just the vandalism indicates that.
and the outside was on, yes, when they returned.
And I guess it does take something to file a police report. I mean, the risk of filing a false police report is far greater than the $400 some that they would owe the city.
What was that? 107.
Yeah, only 179.
Well, on each side, because you got to take the wastewater into account as well.
Oh, okay.
So with wastewater, it's somewhere around $400 some.
400. Yeah, 423.64 is the total.
Well,
I will tell you that Brad and I have been, not about this one, but Brad and I have been in discussions with another user where they suggest that somebody had used a credit card from them to pay the water bill, and we said, okay. And then they were demanding a bunch of information. We didn't turn that over. We said, well, we need for you, if you file a police report, we'll be able to give that information to the police department. If they do an investigation, find that that's true, and then very suddenly this person said, oh, that's okay. And so it is, I'm glad this person chose to do this, because I think it points to where they are.
so the credit card never filed a complaint? Interesting. Okay.
No.
Side issue, but
Yeah, but I mean, it just, we have in the past, and we continue to say, if you believe that there's been criminal activity, vandalism, whatever, we want you to file a police report to help us, figure out exactly what's going on. And in that case, that person chose not to. which I think said an awful lot about what was going on there. But
Okay. If there's no more discussion, we can call the roll.
Mr. Platt,
Yes.
Mr. Zick,
Yes.
Mr. Reinhardt,
Yes?
Mr. Miller.
No.
No?
no.
Okay. 1200 East Chestnut. These have been piling up for a while, haven't they?
Yeah. This particular instance, the lady had passed away in the shower, and they went out to do a well visit, and Chris Roddy called the police, and they forced entry and found her in the shower, passed away. So, total on the water side, it's $50. On the wastewater side, it's $74.60 for a total of $124.60. That's what they're asking for forgiveness.
I would motion to ask for, they don't have to pay the water bill.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any more discussion on this one? I do remember this from a couple meetings ago. So.
Yeah.
Mr. Platt,
Yes.
Mr. Zick,
Yes.
Mr. Reinhardt,
Yes?
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Ah, we figured out the Village of Gambier thing, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So, did we talk about this last meeting already?
Yeah, but we just needed, numbers
Numbers.
on it, yeah.
So just to recap, we provide water to the Village of Gambier. Apparently there is a malfunction on our meter that overflowed their water tower. So we asked Brad and his staff to dig in to see how much water was wasted because of that, and did we find out?
Yes. By looking at, there was two circumstances where it overflowed. There was a solenoid went bad on our side. It overflowed. Anything over 25 feet on their tower elevation is overflow. So we found for about an hour at each event was what it went over. 34 cubic foot on the event on 519 and 25 cubic feet on 520. For a total, they're so high on the tier because they use so much water. It's $233.60 and 64 cents is the total amount. So
We had an equipment failure is all it was?
Yes.
Okay.
that was definitely on our side.
Yeah.
So.
Do we have a motion?
A motion to waive charges on the 34 cubic feet from 519 and 25 cubic feet from 520.
Second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion on this one? Okay, call the roll.
Mr. Platt,
Yes.
Mr. Zick,
Yes.
Mr. Reinhardt,
Yes?
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
2 Marmot Drive, Donald Armstrong, pending attendance, which it does not look like he's here. If the commission is willing, Mr. Burley is on his way. I didn't notice this before, but there was an agenda malfunction that set the meeting time at 12 a.m. So he doesn't have an excuse, but I can see the mistake. So are we willing to hang out for a little bit? I heard from him about 4 minutes ago.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. And this would be in regard to the, we gotta start, it's the Heartland Commerce Park leak credit request. So we'll kind of, I guess, hang out and recess until
What
then.
is that? The Heartland Court?
The old Rolls Royce Siemens
Oh.
Cooper.
campus.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can't use the Cooper name in it, so.
So the letters that we had now asking for these things, is that as a result of several meetings back? Okay, all right.
Yes, we said, at least I was uncomfortable having, and I think the commission was having Brad and the city employees make the case for people.
Okay.
But traditionally, it had been they need to show up themselves. I think that we compromised by that by saying if they provide written requests,
Sure.
that the utility commission would look at that. So,
Oh, that's great, that's fine. That was my whole reason for concern out of city employees.
So, Mr. Ruckman, are there any questions that we can answer for you?
There are not usually this many billing items on the agenda.
Okay. So who's going to be the new city council representative on this? Is this you?
He is.
See, already here.
Early.
How close do you live that it only takes you 5 minutes?
New Danbury Road.
There we go. Hey, sorry about that. I didn't notice the time on the agenda there, so
Said
thanks for rushing over.
12 a.m. That's
You-
a really early start.
He was here, but everything was locked up.
Yeah.
Okay. You waiting for me?
Hmm.
Yep.
We literally 1 minute, so
Okay.
catch your breath, and then we can
right.
get into it. Have you met Mr. Ruckman?
I have not.
He's our new council representative for the Utility Commission. So Keith Burley was on the Utility Commission, and now he just helps us with all kinds of stuff, especially Heartland Park.
Especially.
So
Well, I'm never one for a short utilities commission meeting, so
hey,
we're good.
we had a lot to talk about today.
I saw that.
So
I agree.
oh, okay.
Be here both of these days. I won't be able to be here. Yes.
And we're ready for you whenever you
Oh, I'm ready.
want to run us through what's
Okay.
Email
What's
us
up?
some Pictures and information.
I don't know if you have the
You know-
slides or any of those.
Oh, I don't.
I thought Brad had
Oh, maybe he did. Wait, maybe he did
done it.
put them on here.
For you, I thought.
Oh, yeah. I've got the slides. Sorry about that.
Okay.
They were in the middle there. Okay.
Okay, so, good morning. I'm Keith Burley. I'm a member of the board involved with Heartland Commerce Park, and in particular involved with kind of the water utility side of working to kind of understand the billing process. We're working through that, and this relates to it in that we're requesting a leak credit. So the end of December, we had an extremely cold spell. So these are Columbus temperatures, but we got down to -7. So we had a freeze and a break. Next slide.
Yep.
Yep, so we have a utility trench that if you look on the left image where the two circles are, it runs from what was the powerhouse down across the campus. They removed the building that's in the larger rectangular box to the left of that in the fall, and they left this utility trench cover open unknowingly. So as those temperatures dipped, we had a freeze and then some splits in some small bore piping attached to two different lines that run through that trench. There's one that comes off North Sandusky Street, one comes off of West Burgess Street. So next. So this is the flow chart from the utility department. The bill is at the top. It shows where the break or freeze started to thaw about December 28th. And we used a total of 525 units of water. And so we're requesting a leak credit on simply the the sewer charge. So that's really it. I met with Brad Cook yesterday. We covered that. He felt like things were in pretty good shape on that as far as understanding explanation. The second one is so that the first one, that one is for the meter that's on North Sandusky Street. That's that account.
Mm-hmm.
The next one runs in the same utility trench, comes off of a 6-inch meter, 10-inch line off of West Burgess Street. This one's a lot more complicated to discuss. We've been being billed for that for about 20 months, and the meter's never been read. So the sender on that meter doesn't work, so it has to be manual read, and was never done. So we don't have a similar flow chart. This is one system that we do believe has been a tight system. We haven't had leaks until this freeze, and so we're requesting a leak credit for the amount of water for the sewer side. We're not the water side, for that line as well. So Steve, our maintenance manager there at the site, did call the city. Well, interestingly, we had a hang tag on the fence for the North Sandusky meter. This one, since no one reads it, we had no reporting, but both Jamie and Josh were out during this process and took a look at it. So 2 requests. A little bit of this math at the bottom is, since we have had usage since we took over the park from Siemens, we do have a settle up on that total water consumption. So that's what the math is, but it's basically a $2,900 leak credit here, and then I think the previous one's $3,900. So.
Okay. On the first one, you said they left a manhole cover off. I mean, can you file that on insurance or something like that? Was that the contractor you think left it off, or?
Don't know. I mean, so the building was removed over top of it, so not really quite sure. This was one of those fall construction kind of things to try to get that project done.
Okay.
So I don't know an answer to that.
Okay.
So you're just asking for the waiver on the sewer?
On the sewer, just on the sewer, not on the water. Yeah. Yeah. Being on the utility commission, I knew better than to ask for that. That's one thing I learned, and the meter never lies. Yeah.
If it does, it's always slow.
Yeah. That's right.
Do we have a motion to authorize these 2 wastewater bill credits for Cooper Heartland Commerce Park?
Yeah, I would have a motion that I would.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Okay. Let's do the vote.
Do we have a discussion on
Any
it?
Oh,
further
yeah. Do you
discussion?
want to have more discussion?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Could you just explain real quick how you came up with the difference between how much water was leaking and how much was actually used? We're not crediting the whole amount of sewer, right? We're only crediting a portion of it that accounts for the leak.
So, in this case, yes, this is, again, we don't really use much water, so I believe the final 7 bubbles are still a small leak in the system, which we ultimately did find. Yeah, this is a time where there's really no activity to consume water.
Okay, so we're assuming that all of the water is...
Yes, this is the assumption that
water.
all the water
Okay.
did not enter the wastewater system.
And that's in both instances?
In both instances, yeah. The one is the Northwest Burgess Street meter. It just goes into the utility trench, has drains in the bottom, and it just drains out through the ground.
Okay.
This would have been like the Christmas, New Year's.
Yeah, this was
timeframe,
the
wasn't it?
freeze started about the 24th.
Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Christmas Eve, we got down to 7 pretty high winds, and then it started to thaw on December 28th. So
Oh,
we have
Aaron's well aware.
We
We had
have-
just hired him,
I
and he spent
know.
the entire
His-
weekend here.
his phone rings. Yeah,
Got to meet a lot of people there.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, more discussion on that. Okay. We can call the vote.
Mr. Platt,
Yes.
Mr. Zick,
Yes.
Mr. Reinhardt,
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Okay. All taken care of.
Thanks.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Thanks, Keith.
Thank you.
Sorry to rush you.
Well, no,
Yeah, I just have.
I just barely looked at my phone and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Man, you got here quick.
Yeah, well,
What else is going on?
Burbidge wasn't out doing traffic enforcement on New Gambier Road.
actually he is.
Oh,